Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. So today's video is probably going to be the realest of them all. I am going to be talking about how I overcame my pornography addiction. I was so overwhelmed by how many people DM'd me, messaged me, even WhatsApped me. I was like, sis, you need to talk about this topic. Firstly, a lot of people didn't know that this is something that I had battled with, that this is something I had overcome, that this was even something I had been through. And that's fair enough because I've never spoken about it with anybody. It was a huge part of my life that I was ashamed about, but now I really thank God I can actually share my story and share with you guys what helped me. And so first of all, I just want to say to everybody watching, thank you so much for clicking on this video, and you can definitely overcome this if this is something that you are struggling with. I'm also going to be keeping this video very, very real, very, very honest, but this is a topic which I think a lot of people haven't found freedom from, or a lot of people haven't got a lot of insight into as to how many people are struggling because there is so much shame surrounding it. So I just want to be honest, and hopefully my honesty inspires you to be honest with yourself, with God, with maybe people around you that you need accountability from. But most of all, I just hope that this video helps you. So this video is going to be broken down into basically 3 parts. I'm going to be covering how this addiction started, why I had to stop, and how I stopped. And so if you want to hear the story, keep watching. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like this video, and drop a comment if you want to see more videos like this or you have any questions. But let's just get talking right now. So I am 22 years old and I started watching pornography when I was 10. I stopped when I was around 20. And so I had a 10-year addiction to pornography. Now you're probably thinking, hold on a minute. 10 years old. Yes, I am a Gen Z babe, and so I was born with the internet being the norm. You know, I can't imagine life without the internet. As a child at 10 years old, a lot of my time was spent watching YouTube, watching videos, watching movies, and doing things that I couldn't really do on my TV because, you know, although I grew up, you know, watching TV, the internet was so much more fascinating to me because there was no limit to what it is I could watch. Oftentimes your parents will dictate, you can watch this, you can't watch that. If a sex scene comes on, close your eyes. Like, your parents dictate to you what it is you should and should not see, which is fantastic. The other thing about the internet is you can be anybody. You can create a completely different identity to who you are in real life. You know, I had a YouTube account, I had different accounts on different, probably had social media accounts at that time, telling those accounts, you know, once they ask you, are you above the age of 18? Are you above the age of 13? You just click a box and you say yes. Me with a curious mind, as somebody who thought, you know, I'm quite mature, and everyone had told me, you know, you're quite mature for your age at 10 years old. I was intrigued about this thing that was kind of this forbidden topic for me, but they're starting to introduce within, you know, my year 6 class, which is sex and sex education. And so when it came to online pornography, I think there was just a day where I was like, what is sex, you know, and where do you go to watch anything regarding sex and to understand anything regarding sex? Not read about it from a medical perspective, not understand it from a spiritual perspective, none of that. What is it? I went to the internet and I found porn. And that was where this whole journey situation began. I think for me, there was an intrigue that was being satisfied by the fact that nothing was held back from me. There were so many questions like, what is sex? What's the craze about it? What's this thing all about? And that was being satisfied for me by watching pornography because it was educating me about this subject that nobody else wanted to educate me on. You know, everybody else wasn't giving me the fullness of this, and the world seemed completely crazed by it. Like I said, I was consuming non-pornographic content that was for people a lot older than me, people who understood these things already, people who had already experienced sex maybe. But here I was at 10 watching those same things, and I'm like, I don't get that reference, or why, you know, why this is so raunchy. I want to know more, or like, this sex scene, like, I'm just here watching it with wide eyes open because nobody's here to cover my eyes. And because it was completely unregulated usage, there was questions that I had that the internet could answer, and porn was answering it for me without any censorship. There was also a sense of escapism. At 10 years old, I could definitely wholeheartedly say now, reflectively, I was very depressed. And it's Honestly, it blows my mind, but 10-year-olds and people in primary school and people who are young are experiencing depression and mental health issues. And during that time, there was a lot on me. There was a lot I had experienced and a lot that I had seen. I'm not blaming anybody whatsoever, but these were the circumstances that were surrounding me. That meant that at 10 years old, I didn't really know how to process my emotions. I didn't really know what it is I should feel. All I knew was at that age, I felt sad quite often. I felt sad pretty much all the time. Whilst I was watching this pornography, I was so captivated by what it is that I was watching that I forgot about everything. I forgot about hurt. I forgot about trauma. I forgot about feelings of dissatisfaction. Not that these were the words that I would use as a 10-year-old, but now reflectively I can say those words. But I forgot about all of it. It was an escape that I would spend hours just consuming pornography because it would help me forget. It became a medication for me. It became if I'm feeling stressed, if I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling extremely depressed, this is where I go. Whilst I'm watching pornography, my brain is releasing surges of dopamine into my body, which is making me feel good. It's making me feel as though this is an accomplishment. And in that moment, this feels better than anything else that will be happening during my day. At that moment, my body is saying, okay, this thing is assisting our ability to survive and our survival instinct. And so reward the body and continue to make it feel like this is a good thing, even though I wasn't engaging in physical sex. And so as that reward center in my mind is receiving this kind of applause that is, keep this up, my body is desiring not just the sex, but the releases of dopamine. That release can be very, very addictive. That need for that reward within your mind is quite addictive. When I come down from that dopamine high, I am down. Like, I am even worse than when I started. So what I didn't realize at that time was that intrigue that was being satisfied and that kind of, I'm locked into this thing, that was engineered. You have to understand, porn is such a lucrative industry. It's one of those industries that are like protected from any sort of recession. People are consuming porn no matter what what's happening in the world, no matter what's happening around them. People are consuming it. Why? Because pornography as an industry, we're not just talking about, oh, these people make videos on the internet, it's just so great and free. No, these are engineered companies that people start and they have to make money. And the reason why they're making billions is because they're capitalizing on your intrigue and they are capitalizing on your addiction. They're capitalizing on your need for more. This wasn't just happening accidentally. These weren't educational videos on the internet. These were specifically put together, edited in that way, scripted that way, with tools and things, different medications and all of that, so that I would continually want more, so that I would never be satisfied. They care about me as a consumer. They care about me as learning from my behavior so that they continue to engineer things that keep me coming back, because the more I'm there, the more money that they make. And so they're not concerned about teaching me the realities of sex. They're not concerned with making this realistic. No, they're concerned with playing into my fantasies so that I keep coming back. The biggest thing that you can capitalize on is emotions, is sensation, literal wiring in my brain, being able to tap into that and make money off of it. That's what the pornography industry is. The other problem was I was using this as such an emotional crutch. So many people will tell you, pornography is natural, watching pornography is fine, girl. Like, masturbation is all about coming to know and becoming one with your body and all of that. Oftentimes when people are having those conversations, they're not talking about the reality that your mind is becoming so attached to this thing. It's attaching it to such feelings of, for me, it was feelings of desire, it was feelings of pleasure, servitude, and a satisfaction that came from it, and a dependency that I was seeing, that I was like, these are the feelings that I want to be satisfied. I want to feel desired, I want to feel senses of pleasure. I want to feel like somebody depends on me. I want to feel like somebody is serving me and I'm serving somebody. I want to feel that satisfaction. What I was watching wasn't people procreating. What I was watching wasn't, I didn't care about whether this woman was going to get pregnant and have a baby and whether this was a healthy family. I didn't give a damn. What I was watching, to me, was intimacy. It wasn't just sex. And so what I went to find out of pornography wasn't just entertainment. It was something to heal and soothe these real issues that I was feeling in my heart. And so I kept coming back, but also my view of intimacy became distorted. My view of what intimacy, listen to the words I just said: desire, pleasure, dependency, servitude, satisfaction. These are all things we crave in life anyway. These are all things we desire in life anyway, maybe from a spouse, maybe from God. But I was developing this attachment and this intimacy with something artificial. I'm gonna read something which I wrote down, which I kind of didn't think about, but what kept me stuck for a long time was this belief that women don't talk about these things, and actually that when women do it, it's from a much less harmful place than men. Women do this to empower themselves, get familiar with their bodies, but men do this to objectify women. But I wasn't getting to know my body. I was also objectifying women and men's bodies, as well as developing insecurities of my own body. This didn't make me feel powerful because I didn't tell my body no. Oftentimes we're told men watch porn and it destroys their way of thinking about, the opposite sex. They objectify women. They see women as sex toys. But I was experiencing the exact same thing. I saw men and women as objects of sexual satisfaction, to the point where when I used to get into relationships, I used to just think like, are you going to sexually satisfy me or not? Or even when I looked at somebody, I just think, I wonder what they're like sexually. That was the way I was thinking from a really, really young age about people. That destroys your ability to see people as just normal human beings. They suddenly become only sexual beings. And even though I was craving intimacy, I wasn't made to have intimacy with just myself. Intimacy is such a communing thing. It's you need another party to feel intimate with. And here I was being intimate with myself, or rather being intimate with my idea, or with my fantasy, or with whoever I saw in my mind, or whoever I was seeing on the screen. I was involving myself in several forms of relationship that weren't healthy, that weren't real, that weren't realistic. I was having an unrealistic view of what the female body should look like, what the male body should look like. And that was setting me up to have expectations of real sex which weren't underpinned in reality. A lot of the times you would hear things like, masturbation is fine, it's a way of empowering yourself. I didn't feel very powerful when my own body was telling me watch porn and I'm telling myself no. And when I say, there's kind of these two sides of me, I think we all know what I'm kind of talking about. It's that part of you that says, I'm on a diet. And then the other part of you that's like, girl, go and have a slice of cake. There then becomes this battle, which is like, I shouldn't have a slice of cake, but I want a slice of cake. There's an internal conflict that goes on. We all have it. And so here I am having this internal battle at 1 a.m. in the morning, where my body is telling me, go on this particular website on your phone. And I am genuinely like, no, I don't want to. But it's so hot, to the point where I was like in cold sweat. It was crazy. I just felt like I was going mad and I was tearing myself apart because I couldn't tell myself no. I would constantly give in. I would set out to stop this thing. By the evening, by next week, by a month later, I was back in this cycle of this addiction. And so I didn't feel powerful with this addiction. I don't think anyone feels powerful when they have an addiction to something. And when we tell people to engage in something that's as addictive as porn casually, we're telling them to just open the door a little bit each time to falling into something which is very, very hard to get back out of. And so why I had to stop was I had this empty feeling every time I stopped it. Every time I'd get this dopamine release, it would drop. And it would drop lower because it was now weighed down with guilt and shame. It was now weighed down with, you shouldn't do that. This is not normal. People don't do this. Women don't do this. If anybody found this out, it would be so embarrassing. What will your parents think? What would your siblings think? What would your church think if you kept doing this? And so now, what is a normal dopamine high coming down to a normal level is now weighted down by guilt. it's now weighted down by, okay, I don't feel good about this anymore. I don't feel rewarded. But now I feel shame about everything. Now I feel extremely guilty. Now I feel like I've let myself down. Now I kind of feel like I've violated my body. Why do I keep going back to this addiction? Now even weighted down by this feeling of defeat of, wow, I couldn't win the war that I was, or this battle that I was going at with my flesh, with my body, with my desires. And so now I'm not at the same level I was when I came to the porn, no. If I was anxious and stressed before, all that anxiety and stress is still there. I haven't dealt with anything in real life. All that anxiety and stress is there. Whatever is causing it still exists, because this isn't a solution to my problems. But now it's all weighted down by all the guilt, by all the disappointment, by all the shame. And so now I'm much lower than where I started, which means in order to get back to the same high that I experienced, when I did this thing last time, I need much more. I need much more releases of dopamine. I can't just watch one video anymore. I need to watch multiple. I can't just spend 1 hour watching. Now I need to spend hours or days dedicating myself, because it's taking more for me to get back up again. And that's the problem. That's what keeps you coming back. That's what means that you can't stop. That's what drove me from that transition of just watching porn to now having to masturbate, to now having to have sex with real people, and then having people, even real people, not satisfying my sexual urges anymore, and being like, listen, forget you. I need to go back to just fantasizing and making these perfect scenarios in my mind. All of this was damaging my relationship with people and my relationship with myself. All of these up and downs that aided and continue to help my dysfunction, continue to make me feel more broken, continue to make me feel like I didn't understand myself, like I was crazy. Like, how could you be addicted to this thing? How can you not, don't you feel ashamed? Don't you feel? And I did. That's exact, and that might be how you're feeling. And so here I was at 18 years old, after 8 years of watching pornography with a serious addiction to it. And I had just decided that no, enough is enough. I can't keep doing this. I cannot keep letting my body win over my spirit, over my soul. I can't keep telling myself I want to stop doing this, and then for some reason I can't even keep to my word. I can't even keep to my promise. I can't keep maintaining this dysfunctional perspective that is damaging a lot of my relationships. I've done several story times on this channel. I tell stories of heartbreak and why my relationships failed. And the funniest ones are always, when the guy has done crazy stuff to me. But there have been so many instances why my relationship failed because of my own dysfunctional ways of thinking, because I was constantly comparing my partner to a porn star, because I was constantly comparing my partner to this perfect guy that I had imagined in my head, when the image of men in my mind had been informed and painted by several experiences of dysfunction, by men who were violent, by men who were cheaters, and then by men who were unrealistically driven by sex, by men who were aggressive, by all these things that I was consuming, and what porn was telling me femininity is and masculinity is, what it was telling me how, men and women interact with each other, how women and women interact with each other, because let's keep it 100% real. I was learning something that I was taking into my real life relationships that wasn't realistic. You can't expect people to perform up to artificially engineered situations. I kept being disappointed because of my unrealistic expectations on other people, mixed with my own dysfunctional ways of thinking towards myself and my own undealt with pains that kept driving me to porn in the first place. It was becoming this really murky pool of a mess, and I was becoming a mess of a person. And that's what drove me to having this journey of singleness in the first place, because whilst I looked really good, whilst I knew how to do my hair and my makeup, I knew how to lay a good wig, I was smart, I went to the best university in the country, I was intelligent. A lot of people looked at me and they were like, wow, you pretty much have everything. But internally, because I knew the battles I was facing in the night, when these dark feelings of hurt from my childhood and pain from what I had seen growing up, all of these experiences of feeling heartbroken and betrayed started coming up, I would then self-medicate with a really intense addiction to something that the world was telling me this is not something that women do. And because of that, I couldn't speak to anybody about it. I didn't want to speak to anybody about it because I didn't want to damage people's perception of who I was. And so I have to say, I thank God that in that time, there was somebody who I could turn to who was like, girl, I've already seen your mess. I've seen it from before you even saw your mess. And here I am, not just to forgive you, not just to make you feel like, oh, this is okay, I have some grace, you know, God knows I'll always fall short. But no, here I am to help you get over this thing, because on the other side of this has to be freedom. If you want to have a functioning family, if you want to have a family that doesn't learn your own dysfunctions, if you want to heal from the things that you've experienced, your heartbreak, your disappointment, your daddy issues, your mummy issues, if you want to get over this pornography addiction, if you want to understand what sex and intimacy is truly in the best, healthy, most fulfilling way, here I am to help you. Here I am to give you strength. Here I am to give you knowledge. Here I am to give you wisdom. So I thank God that I thank Jesus that he was there for me, that I could turn to him and not just find, oh, you shouldn't do this, so stop. No, he walked me through a 2 to 3 year process of deliverance, of this thing is not going to hold you captive anymore. This thing is not going to hold you captive anymore. That was the journey that I had to go through. It was not just freedom from touching myself. It wasn't just freedom from watching pornography. That was a manifestation of some deeply rooted brokenness which had never been addressed. And here he was to address it. Here he was to dress me down and be like, listen, we need to go right back to the beginning and sort out the problems in this foundation, to sort out even the memories you have that you have buried. Some of us have even been dealing with trauma that we can't remember. You can't remember that somebody abused you. Though you can't see the images, there is a constant fear that you've grown up with, and that has decided the steps that you've taken in life. We can't afford to go into our futures with this. This was such a journey of growth, but it was healing. And that healing began when I acknowledged that I was broken, really broken, and I was trying to look to this pornography and what I thought it was and the feelings that my body was telling me that I was having to paint over all of that issue. Like that moment or those hours or however long I was engaged in watching something and masturbating, I was feeling ecstasy. That's the word. There was an ecstasy that I assumed was love because I had never felt it. Though people had shown me love, I had never felt it. So in that moment of ecstasy, it was like, this is what love must feel like. But I met the one who is love, and God is love. In that he taught me how to love myself properly, how to experience and feel love. And so that's what I want to share with you, that there's something much more than this on the other side of your addiction. There is something much more underpinning why you keep going back to this. But there's also life on the other side of this addiction. You won't be held by this forever. And so how did I actually get over it? So how did I stop? I had to acknowledge that this was an addiction. This wasn't just something that I was doing casually. This was a deep-rooted issue within me, which most likely wasn't going to go away overnight. I was undoing years and years of repeated images, subconsciously absorbed messaging and narrative concerning sex and intimacy. This wasn't something that was just going to happen like that. Some people, it could. I'm not disputing that miraculous thing happening for you, but I think that there is something about the process that teaches you why you won't return back to the place that you're coming from. There is something about having to fix every little crack that teaches you about how you'll never fall back to this place again. Because I was not just overcoming or thinking about, okay, I need to stop this little habit and train my body like I would to exercise. No, I was combating having to heal over the things that drove me there in the first place, having to really address, okay, so this pornography thing, it has been a teacher. It has been almost like a mentor. It's been something that has taught me and discipled me. And it has dictated my way of thinking for my life, for 10 good years, half of my lifespan. How am I going to get rid of that way of perceiving the world? And I had to treat it with that severity that if somebody came and told you, listen, I'm addicted to crack cocaine, I'm spending all my money on it, I'm spending all of my time doing it, I can't think of anything but doing crack. That's the same way that's the same severity that you would rush them to rehab, put them in an actual facility where they would have 24 hours of attention that undid that dependency. That's the same way I had to really attack this thing. I had to change what it is I was consuming. So for me, I stopped listening to certain music, throwback Chris Brown, throwback Trey Songz, all of that got thrown in the bin. Those used to be like my favorite artists as well. I used to jam to Trey Songz. But I had to, you've got to go. Music is so connected to our emotions. That's why music is it's a thing that we do naturally. It's a part of our human kind of response to listen to music, to worship, to meditate on things, to enjoy melodies. But these melodies, these lyrics, these songs become attached to moments. You know, that's how you can listen to a song and then remember your ex. You know, these songs are attached to memories, and then these lyrics are painting an image. So songwriters are storytellers. They tell stories through their music. They convey emotion and then put it with a hypnotizing sound. That's how music sells. That's what's beautiful about it. But these were songs that were taking me to a place, causing me to fantasize about something, causing me to remember things that I was trying to get rid of, not just from my memory, but get rid of from my sense of desire. And so I couldn't listen to the same things that I was listening to. And I also had to be very careful of the new music that I heard that would have lyrics that would remind me of this feeling. Because let's be real, you can't just be like, oh, I hate this thing, you know, I want to break free from my addiction, and think you'll become disgusted by it. Oftentimes the most dangerous things are the things that we crave the most. They are the things that taste the sweetest. And God knew what he was doing when he was saying, listen, save that sensation for the protection of being with one partner, because here you are desiring to throw it back with everybody because Trey Songz is singing about it. You know, I really needed to change the things that I was consuming. So for a long while, I stopped listening to certain sorts of music. I stopped watching certain sorts of films. I had to, you know, stop watching certain sorts of shows. I had to skip through a lot of sex scenes and be like, oh, no, I don't need to see that. Literally to the point where I just have to cover my eyes, cover my ears, whatever it, or just get myself out of the situation, because I was protecting that deliverance process. I was protecting that healing process. I was protecting that process of I'm becoming free from something. I don't want to do something that would make me relapse. And the unfortunate thing is sex is everywhere. You know, sex sells in our society, and we live in such a sexualized generation where literally there are so many things that will remind you of sex. You just have to make one foul swipe, right, on your normal Twitter timeline, your normal feed, and suddenly you're watching a whole clip of pornography. You know, it's so sad, but I really had to be mindful of those things. So I had to stop following some people. I had to block some people. For me, it was I had to protect my space. And sometimes we forget we curate content on our social media feeds. So I had to take control of what was coming up to me and what I was consuming. Thirdly, I dealt with the root issues which drove me to porn in the first place. I had to acknowledge that this wasn't just me watching porn because I was bored. The reason why I felt such an attachment to it was because I had unaddressed trauma, unaddressed feelings of unworthiness. There were deep cycles of depression and anxiety that I felt like it was putting at ease. And so these were issues I had to sit with God about. I do have mentors and, you know, authority figures in my life who I could definitely have those open discussions with, but before I didn't. So I would recommend to anybody, get somebody who you can talk to, or a whole community of people. If you need to join like a forum, if you need to join like a pornography addiction anonymous, whatever it is, then definitely do it. Of course, I did the practical things of putting a child lock on my phone. Yes, at my big age, I had to put a child protective lock on certain websites. And I know if you're like me, you would have just been like, well, I could just take the protective thing off, you know, at the end of the day. this is my phone. But at the same time, it gave me at least a moment more to think, do I actually want to do this? For me, the person that I had to be honest with was myself. Is it because I feel lonely? Is it because I feel as though, no, but I feel undesired, you know, and this is the only way that I can make myself, this is the only way I can fantasize about somebody wanting me. Those are the real conversations that you need to have if those are the real feelings that you're feeling. Nothing happens when you're trying to be fake. Nothing changes unless you expose the real situation of what needs to be changed. And lastly, I had to hate what I was doing. I had to hate the destructive nature of pornography, but I could not fall into hating myself. You know, this was something that I was doing. It wasn't something that I was. I was not my pornography addiction, but I was addicted to porn. And so I had to acknowledge that this is something that is hindering you from becoming your true self. It's hindering you from becoming the best of yourself and living up to your best potential, because you're held captive. You're being oppressed by this addiction that you have, and this thing that you can't discipline, this thing that is running wild in your life. It's not contained. This is something you don't have control over at the moment, Courtney, and it's stopping you from walking in the power that you were created to walk in. It's stopping you from feeling the love that you're meant to feel. You need to hate this thing, but not hate yourself. And so the truth of it is, this journey is not going to be easy. This journey is one of healing. It's one of continuously revisiting, okay, let's really make sure that I'm free from these feelings, not just the feeling sexually, desiring some sort of sexual encounter. This is not just you feeling horny. It's what is your response to that? You know, what is your response? Are you going to go and engage in something which has really destructive consequences? But what I wanted to focus on in this video is not just those practical things, because I think most people know it. If we're going to be real with ourselves, most people know, oh, I could do this, I could do that, I could, but we always find a way to get around it because these are the things that we desire. So one thing we need to start questioning is, why do I desire this thing? Why am I so attached to this thing? What is this medicating for me? What is this soothing for me? What is this replacing for me that I actually need to go and find in a healthy place, that I need to go and fulfill in a healthy way? And so I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Maybe you didn't even think you had a pornography addiction, but now you're thinking, okay, maybe I do. But also, maybe there is just a level of healing that you need to get to before you even get to this place of watching porn or masturbating or anything like that. Please do not feel shame about this topic. I know it's like one of those topics where nobody wants to come out and talk about it. Everyone's watching porn, but no one wants to talk about it. People, you know, don't want people to know that they're addicted to something. Shame has no place in your life. It has no place here, that's for sure. I'm sure loads of people will have opinions, loads of people will have advice, but let's keep it respectful, let's keep it helpful down below, let's keep it real honest. We are a big community and a big family on this channel, and yeah, I'll be talking to you guys in the comment section, so definitely comment, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Stay beautiful and stay blessed. Mwah.